Hey folks, how's it going? I'm Lexi and I really like tabletop games. So much so that every week, once a week, I review one here on the gaming table. If that sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to hit subscribe and to keep watching. I actually picked up today's game a long time ago, but I struggled to sort of know where to fit it in to review and record the episode. When I'm deciding which games I'm going to review when, I try to have it so I don't have games with similar vibes or similar genres back to back. Anyway, with that very boring glimpse behind the screen of what we do here, let's dive into today's game. From Genesis of Legend Publishing, this is After the War. As this title implies, this game takes place after a war. In the distant future, humanity has gone beyond the stars and has terraformed new planets and places to live on. Unfortunately for humanity, they were not alone. An enemy known as the Song infected people, rendering them zombie-like to its control. Not only was the Song highly infectious, it also was very destructive. Much of what humanity built in space is now gone, and they only survived because humanity created a great, terrible weapon to fight the Song with. The Song seems to be dormant for now, though many still fear falling to the Great Choir. Now humanity is fleeing from its previous homes to a new place to settle, Povlo. Everyone on Povlo came from somewhere else, Old Terra, Mars, the Free Belt, or even further afield. Povlo is a new settlement, and the action of the game centers around the struggles of the people who have tried to make a home there. Now, Povlo, while being new, isn't a small settlement by any means. There are several places where humanity has eked out an existence on this planet. However, these places can be isolated from one another. Before jumping into your game of After the War, the game actually has the players and their characters come together to create the settlement that they will be based at. You do have a choice of a couple of named settlements. You get to decide what a settlement's prime industry is and some key players in it. You also need your player characters to decide which characters they know already on the settlement, and perhaps how they settled in when they first arrived. There are some questions that you will need to answer, and that potentially you can also make a map. After the War has some really interesting lore that is in the background of your player characters. I've only covered it very briefly, but it's really interesting. But it is very important to the player characters to have it is important that the players have a vague idea of what has happened in the timeline of the previous years. I do really like that the game has the player characters and the game master come together to decide what this settlement looks like. After the War is unique in that there aren't really basic stats that every character has. Instead, how you build your character and their backstory will directly impact what skills they have and what they are good at. To overcome obstacles in the game, players get to roll some d6s to pass a test. These d6s actually come from the different skills that a player character has in their background. For example, if your character, say, was a veteran from the war against the Song, you could bring up that element of their backstory to justify why you should roll more dice in a combat situation. And it's not just a character's past that can give you more dice to roll. Their personality can have a big impact as well. I will briefly touch on how this character process is done, though I don't have time to cover all of the background options. The first thing you do when you create a character is to choose an origin. This gives them access to different situations on their homeland and different jobs or tasks they would have done there. Every option you pick in the game generally branches out to more options for you to tailor your character to. Then once you've filled out where your character is from, you then work out what they were doing during the war. Similar to your origins, your character's war story will talk about where they were during the war, what they were doing, and what skills or scars they were left with from that. Then you get to do this process once again with their profession. This is what they currently do and what skills they are working with now. Lastly, you can choose some beliefs which can really drive how your your character acts and what motivates them. There are a couple of other options, but I'm just covering the basic character creation process for today. While I'm out of time to cover more of the mechanics, I think it's really interesting that to make a role in this game, a player can make an argument as to why their character should use X or Y skills and gain more dice to roll. So for the players, you need to be able to present a compelling argument to see how many skills or convictions can reasonably go into one test. After the War is a really neat sci-fi game. It is a game where your characters can have a super eventful backstory, and yet it doesn't overtake what they're doing now. I also always enjoy a slightly post-apocalyptic angle to science fiction, so I really liked the lore of this world as well. I do think if you are playing this game and you want to use an unconventional skill that you think your character could use, you are going to need to make a good argument to your GM and not just annoy them. If you don't mind this flexible approach to skills and potentially having a small discussion or debate over what skills are applicable in any situation, then this game could be a fascinating one for you to pick up. It's only about $50 USD, and for such a dense little book, I think that price is very fair and worthwhile. I thought After the War was a really cool little game, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you like the idea of players getting to make an argument for what skills they can add to a role, or does that terrify you of players making silly suggestions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. While you're there, I encourage you to like, subscribe, maybe even share with a friend. I also have a Ko-fi page where you can donate to the channel to support what we do here, or just check out what I'm up to and remind me to post there more often. I hope you're all well, and I look forward to seeing you next time at the gaming table. Bye!